So as you can imagine, there are tons and tons of resources in that book that will not be gone over page by page, but it is certainly something that can be used going forward. And the ability to have your scholars actually work through some of the exercises and all of that will be extremely beneficial for them as they are again finishing high school and preparing for college and even being in college, looking at career options and all of the other opportunities that will be before them. So please don't take this book and when you finish this class, just put it on the shelf, but really utilize this as a guide to answer a lot of the questions that you might have and resources. Like I said, Miss Christie has been teaching this class for Colorado Early Colleges for a number of years. She created, wrote and designed this book based on the class that she was teaching. And so it's packed with the information that's very practical and useful. And she utilizes it with her class all the time. So definitely, again, ask questions, get any clarifications that you might need as we go forward. So I am just going to have Christy come on board. I am going to remove myself tonight. It is my 30th wedding anniversary. And so, so my husband and I, my girls bought us dinner. And so we want to go ahead and eat it together. So I'm going to excuse myself from class. And Lisa, yes, we'll get you another book. You don't need to purchase it. We'll get you another book so you can have one for yourself. So we will get you we'll mail another book to you. But thank you guys and enjoy the class. And again, please make sure you pick Christy's brain because she's got a lot of resource for you regarding this topic. So thanks, Christy.
Awesome, you're welcome. Thanks for having me back. Deborah, congratulations on your anniversary. Go have
fun. Thanks.
Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see you again. I'm excited to share some of the resources in the book with you today. I want to do something fun. And so I've been using Kahoot with my students a lot, and it's just a very interactive tool. So we'll see, what you know, and we'll stop along the way and kind of talk about some of these things as we ask some of the questions. So tonight we're focusing on budgeting. And I think that regardless of age, everybody needs a little bit of, help with budgeting and finance and investing. And so we're going to cover it all. And I hope to share some resources with you that maybe you hadn't thought of. And so I'm hoping that somebody, that you'll get something out of tonight, no matter what. All right. So please stop me if you have questions and go ahead and join the Kahoot. So you're going to go to kahoot.it. So Kahoot it, and you're going to punch in this pin, 4988535. Hector, I can see that you're driving, so don't worry about it. But no worries. Yeah, I got you. But we'll talk about it, and we'll just have a little bit of friendly competition as we go through, this lesson. So we'll do the Kahoot and then we'll go to the book. So hopefully you have the workbook handy, and I'm just so excited to share this book with you. It was something that I was encouraged to write after teaching this class for so many years. And so I wanted to make sure that everybody has access to what I do in my class, even if you don't have the opportunity to take a class, because I hear parents say all the time, I wish I had a class like this in high school. And I'm like, I know, me too. That's why I teach it. So, so I'm excited. Anyway, well, let's get to it. And we will start our Kahoot. I see 4 participants. Let's see who else we're missing. Whoops, I just pushed the wrong button, and then we just lost somebody. Oh no! I'll give you a second. Please let me know if you have any questions about how to get on there. All right, I see Susan and Angelo, Jose and Maria, Lisa and Lori. Love it. Okay, I gotta find a way to move this little thingy so I can see the, there we go. All right, well, here we go. Dun, 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 competition's on. All right, first question, as we begin this, what is the benefit of budgeting? So is the benefit staying out of debt, reaching goals, saving money, or all of these? All right, 3 participants got it right. All of these, of course. And so our goal is to definitely be able to save more money. To be honest with you, I'm really bad at it. I'm better at spending money than I am saving money. I don't know about you. Staying out of debt for sure is super duper important. And then of course, simply reaching our goals. So we're gonna go through some stuff to help us get there. All right. Next question. What is net income? Is net income earnings before tax, money left after paying bills, earnings after tax, or money that is saved? All right. 3 people got it right. It is earnings after tax. So after your paycheck has, your gross income has been deducted, you know, all of the different things that are deducted from your paycheck. We really care about net income because that's what we get to spend. So we want to know what it is that we take home, our take home pay. So that's what we have. All right, it looks like Jose and Maria are in the lead. Awesome job. All right, let's talk about taxes. So these are deductions that come out of your check. What in the world is FICA and why are they taking all my money? Is it fair income tax, federal income tax, Social Security and Medicare, or state tax? All right. Oh my gosh, nobody got it right. So we all had the same thought. Who is FICA? And why are they taking all my money? So FICA is a mixture of Social Security and Medicare. And so these are mandatory payroll taxes. And so these have to come out of your paycheck. Everybody who is not currently enrolled in PARA, which is a state pension plan, is enrolled in our federal pension plan. And so that is Social Security, and then Medicare is health care for that will also be deducted. All right, so let's look at where we are next. All right, so what this comes out to be is about 7.65% of your gross income. And so we need to be aware of what is coming out of our check and why do we pay for it, right? So we're taking care of our folks and hopefully there will be some Social Security and Medicare waiting there for us when we reach retirement age. However, we're not going to depend on it. And so I want to give you some investment tools that is easy peasy for everybody to participate in, even me. And we'll be able to plan for retirement so that we are in good hands. So we'll go through that today too. All right. The next thing that comes out of your paycheck besides FICA are state income taxes. And so your gross income is taxed at about 4.3%. I'm sorry, 4.63%, which was actually decreased just recently. I'm sorry, I didn't update this to 4.5, I think it's 4.55%. And there was actually something on the ballot, and I just want you guys to be aware that as voters, we have the opportunity to change, you know, how much we're paying in tax. And so everyone is like, I don't want to pay any taxes. I just want to lower taxes. I want to lower taxes. Well, I want you guys to be aware of what state income tax goes toward. So take a look at this pie chart here. The number one thing that state taxes are used for is K through 12 education. And so this is our free education that is provided to us by law. And then schools are really, really hurt when state taxes are decreased. So yes, many people voted for should we lower state tax because they're like, well, yeah, I don't want to pay a bunch of tax. But it was lowered by about 0.1%, which doesn't help us in our paycheck, but it really does hurt education. It also hurts health insurance. You see Medicaid and children's health insurance, higher education, which is like lowering the cost of tuition through community college as well as state universities. So just be aware that that state tax is meant to help and benefit our community. So when we pay those taxes, I just need to remind myself that, hey, these are really important to our community. Okay, true or false? True or false? Federal income tax is a progressive tax. Ooh, pretty split. So federal income tax is a progressive tax, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. This is our federal income tax bracket. And so if we look at, basically how taxes are used or how taxes are calculated within our federal system, there's such thing as progressive tax and then regressive tax and proportional tax. Basically, progressive tax is where your tax rate progressively gets higher based on your earnings. So the more money you make, the higher you're going to be taxed. The argument goes, is this fair? And people who make a ton of money, they say no because they're paying a higher tax, right? I don't know about you, but I'm not in one of those higher tax brackets. And so there's an argument that taxes should be proportional. And proportional means that everybody pays the same percent regardless of income. So, this is just one of those things that's kind of out there, but I just want you guys to understand. And I'm just, as I learn more and more about what our taxes are for and how they're done, I just become very curious at how these decisions are made. So anyway, so progressive tax, the more money you make, the higher the percentage you pay. The other thing to look at this as we look at this this picture is if say you're married filing jointly and you make 40,000 and your spouse makes 40,000, you make 80,000 together, you're going to pay you're going to pay 10% on that first 19,750, and then you're going to pay 12% on the remaining money between 12,751 and 80,000. So you're not going to pay a flat 12%, say. And then once you get into that next tax bracket, you're going to pay whatever the remaining balance is. So maybe you made 100,000 together, you're going to pay 22% tax on that remaining $20,000. So that's progressive tax. Did I say progressive tax? Yes, that's progressive tax. All right, so here we go. Where are we going next? Where do these tax dollars go? Federal money. Which one is used the most? All right, so federal tax dollars, where does the most percentage go? Does it mostly go to education? Does it mostly go to environment? Does it mostly go to military or food and agriculture? Where do your federal tax dollars go? The answer is military. So I'm going to show you on the next slide. Jose and Maria are still in the lead. So this is our federal budget. And so there's mandatory spending and discretionary spending. Mandatory spending is like that Social Security and Medicare. Nobody has any choice about how much that goes and where that goes. That goes directly to Social Security and Medicare. Discretionary spending is based on the federal government. And this is from a couple years ago. So, but it's still pretty close. Not much has changed. But if you look at the pie, military, 59% is where our government spends our federal income tax. Our next one goes to veterans benefits, government employees, and then we have education, which is 5%. This is how our federal government assists low-income families with paying for college. So that's what that is. So if you've ever, gone through the financial aid process with everybody who goes to college will do that, you apply for financial aid, and you do that through the FAFSA, which is the Federal Application for Federal Student Aid. 5% or $61 billion, which sounds like a lot, it goes to fund those grants. And then we have our housing, our healthcare, our science, transportation, international affairs. Then we have this tiny sliver for energy and environment, which is only 2%. Unemployment is only 2%, and then food and agriculture is only 1%. That just blows my mind. That's only 1%. It's like one of the major things that we need. But I don't know about you guys, but if you haven't seen this before, it was pretty eye-opening to me to see, whoa, this is where all of our money goes. So, you can vote, and decide, where this money goes. So keep your eyes open on ballots and things. Okay, so now money has come out of our paycheck. Now we're looking at, okay, what kind of issues do we have major control over? Overdraft, what is it? What is overdraft? Is it spending more money than you have in your credit limit? Is it spending more than you have in your paycheck? Spending more than what you have in your savings account? Or spending more than what you have in your checking? What is overdraft? Ooh, 2 people got it right. It is, in fact, spending more money than you have in your checking account. And so we need to be able to budget to make sure that we don't overdraft. Because if we use more money than we have in our checking account, what happens? Well, they charge us a fee. What is the average fee if we use more money than we have in our checking account? Is it $5.50, $10, $2.75, or $20? Oh, you guys all got it right. I love it. You're like, it has to be the most expensive one. And you're absolutely right. $20. And so if we overdraft, we already don't have any money. And then the bank is like, well, I'm going to charge you a fee because you don't have any money. And you're like, well, I don't have any money. So 20 bucks. So we want to avoid overdraft at all costs because we can dig ourselves a huge hole. Something that you can do is you can decline overdraft protection, which basically will make it so that your debit card will decline instead of overdrafting and having to pay the fee. It depends on your point of view. Personally, I have overdraft protection just in case, and I align my credit card to back up for it if I happen to do that, because sometimes things happen, but I want to pay close attention so that doesn't happen. Here's a tip. If you haven't overdrafted within the last 6 months, right, and you've been a good person, you've been like, I've been good, I promise. You can call your bank and say, I'm so sorry, I can't believe that I did this. I accidentally did it. Can you please reverse the charges? And they will. So never be afraid to ask and say, I'm so sorry, make sure you transfer the money in there and cover it. But they will usually take that fee away. You just have to ask. All right. Jose and Maria still in the lead. Good job. All right, where are we going next? Something else that gets us into trouble is depreciation. What is depreciation? Is it when you go into debt, when the value goes down, when the value stays the same, or when the value goes up? Good job. Depreciation is when the value goes down. So an excellent example of that are cars, right? And we spend a whole lot of money on cars, which depreciates so quickly. I bought one of my first cars. It was the first car payment I ever had, and I regretted so many decisions that I made. I took out a car loan for 5 years, and by the time my car, that with all the fees and all kinds of craziness, was like $20,000, my car was worth $3,000 by the time I was ready to sell it after I paid it off. I paid $20,000 for this car plus interest, that include the interest, and it was worth 3. I was heartbroken. Um, so we need to think about the value of things that we do when we spend our money, and that will help us be able to conserve. So here's another question. If you were to buy a car, what percent of your income would be recommended to use for a car payment? So your net income, how much you're making per month after tax, what percent is advised as a maximum to spend for a car payment? 5, 25, 15, or 40? Ooh, most of you got it. The answer is 15. Absolutely, positively, no more than that. I personally want to avoid having a car payment or having a loan on a car like the plague. It's one of those bills that just, haunts you for a long time that I don't want to have. But 15% is recommended. And I promise you, if you follow these percentages, you will stay within a budget and you will do much better financially. And you'll keep yourself secure within your funds. So 15% for a car. Ooh, Lisa's coming up. All right. What percent of your paycheck should you save? Oh, sorry. Why should you save money? For unexpected expenses, things you want, retirement, or all of the above? Absolutely. All right. So you guys all got it right. For sure, for sure. We need to save money for all of those things. I think my next question is what percent to save. There we go. So which percent of your paycheck should you save? 5, 20, 10, or 50? $10% is what financial advisors advise you to save. So if you can do that, one way that I make sure that I save money is I automatically have it withdrawn from my checking account to my savings account so that I have no say in it. And I specify a certain amount every single month. Otherwise, I won't do it because it's easy to spend money. Do it first before you pay any of your bills. Figure out what your bills are so you can make sure that you can afford that savings. But do it first. Otherwise, you say, I'll save whatever's left over. It never happens because there's never money left over. Ava, I saw that you joined here. If you're not currently on it, you can go to kahoot.it and put in that game pin and join right in, and we'll let you join the challenge here. Okay. Woo. Jose and Maria, you're on fire. Love it. Okay. Which is the worst option to use if you have an emergency expense? A payday loan, asking your parents, a credit card, or crying? I love that somebody picked crying. That's fabulous. So first I would cry, and then I would ask my parents, right? And they'd be like, "You're an adult. What?" Then I use my credit card, and I would absolutely not. You're absolutely right about the payday loans. So never, never, never use a payday loan. If you go to one of those places, I think it's something crazy like 212% interest. Just save money, prevent yourself from having those things happen. And if necessary, it's way better to just simply cry and then use your credit card. But we'll talk about credit. Here we go. All right, let's talk about cars. Back to cars again. New cars depreciate in the first 2 years in value, depreciate in value by how much? 5 to 10%, 30 to 40, 15 to 25, or 50 to 80. New cars depreciate in the first 2 years by how much? Oh, only one person got it. I wonder if it was Jose and Maria. All right, 30 to 40%. You're like, no, I wouldn't this. All right, somebody's sneaking up on you. This is a lot. And so if you buy a brand new car, the second that you own it, that is the biggest chunk of depreciation. And so it's gone from new to used just because you hold the title. You couldn't even sell it back to that dealership for what you bought it for in the first place. And by the way, a lesson that I learned is you can't just simply take a car back. you know, oh, I changed my mind, or oh, I didn't like this one thing. They're like, you signed on the dotted line. This is your car. So make sure that you test drive. Something that I noticed when I bought one of my first cars, it was that car that was worth $3,000. One of the reasons why it was worth $3,000 is it had manual windows, and I didn't realize it because it was winter, right? And so I had to crank my windows for years. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I tried to take it back, and they were like, no. So I learned that one the hard way. So 30 to 40%. So we want to think about the value of things that we buy, and definitely research. The Kelley Blue Book value is one of those things that we definitely want to take into consideration when we're buying a car. Look at the value that it holds, and just make sure that we're getting a good deal. So that's important. What else was I going to tell you? Oh, wait 2 years. If a car is at least 2 years old, it's gone through that biggest chunk of depreciation, and then you'll get a better deal. All right, Lisa's sneaking up. Love it. Okay, so here's that website, and I believe that it's also in the book when we talk about buying a car as well. So we'll go over that later, so you don't have to write it down. But the Kelley Blue Book is a very well-known value, also the NADA value. Okay, what do you do if your check engine light comes on? Pull over immediately, go to AutoZone, take the car to a mechanic, or again, cry. Whoa, that was really split. So a couple of people know about this secret. Don't make it a secret. Go to AutoZone. So AutoZone, if you go there and say, hey, my check engine light is on, they'll come out with their little diagnostic tool. They plug it, you can plug it into your car, and it will do the diagnosis and give you the code for whatever is actually wrong with your vehicle. If you go to the mechanic and do this, they charge you $100 to do the same thing. So this happened to me a couple of weeks ago, again, and it happened to me several times. For some reason, I don't know, I drive a Toyota RAV4, and I've had the same problem over and over again. There's the engine coil, which is like a giant spark plug, keeps going bad. I've replaced all of them now. But hey, my check engine light came on. I went to AutoZone, they plugged the thingy in, they said, hey, this is what's wrong with your car. I bought the part for $99, watched YouTube, how to put it in myself, and fixed it. 99 bucks. The first time this happened, I took it to a mechanic, and they charged me $500. What? So anyway, I hope that's helpful. If your check engine light comes on, go to AutoZone. You can fix anything by watching YouTube. Pretty much anything. All right, let's talk about a place to live. What percent of your net income is advised to spend on rent or mortgage? 10, 30, 15, or 50? Oh, that one's pretty split too. 3 people got it right, 30%. So this is one of the things that is so hard to do in Colorado Springs. Our cost of living here has just skyrocketed within the last couple of years. And so 30% though is very important to stick by, because otherwise what happens is we become house poor. And so what that means is that, you're spending so much money on your place that you live that you just can't afford to go and do anything, or, to use your budget in different ways. So 30% combined income for your household, whoever's paying the bills, is the general guideline. When you rent or when you go and buy a house, especially, the way to buy a house, is to go and get pre-qualified with your loan officer at your bank, but you need to do the math first. And so find out what 30% of your net income is that you can afford, and then you can go shopping, because they might pre-qualify you for a loan that is, one of those things that is too expensive, and then you get yourself into trouble. So in order to balance our budget, we can't spend more than 30% on a place to live. We can't spend more than, we want to save around 10% We can't spend more than 15%, if not zero, on a car payment. And those numbers will help us keep our budget in check. All right. Hector, moving on up. All right, here we go. When we have a place to live, we have to put down a security deposit. What does it cover? First month's rent, rental insurance, damages you do to the property, or last month's rent. Damages you do to the property. So, now that we have the ability to record video on our smartphones, we can walk around the property, take a video of what it looks like the first day that we move in, before we even move in our furniture, and document anything that is already damaged. This goes for dorm rooms, this goes for apartments, houses, whatever. If you are renting and it doesn't belong to you, by the way, this is also helpful for like renting a car or an ATV or something like that as well. Document how it looks already so that you don't get blamed for stuff that you didn't do. When you're done renting whatever it may be and you return it, hopefully you get your damage deposit back or your security deposit back. But that is one thing that is very important to protect yourself, and just very important to understand that you have to put down usually your first month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit when you're going to go out and have a place to live. All right, Hector's on fire. True or false? You need I just gave you the answer. You need 3 months of rent to move in. All right, true. First month's rent, last month's rent, and your security deposit. So usually those things are all equivalent to the cost of rent. It depends on the property, but generally that's what is recommended to save up before you move into a new place. All right, Hector just passed Lisa. What is considered on a rental application? Credit history, background check, employment, or all of these? Oh yeah, right. So credit history, background check, employment, at least 6 months worth of employment for a rental application. To buy a house, they look at 2 years. So 2 years worth of income, proving those pay stubs, and of course, credit history. Super duper important. All right, true or false? Most landlords allow pets, no matter how cute they are. True. I don't know about you, but if I was a landlord, I wouldn't want anybody to bring in a pet. And a lot of places won't let you. And the reason being is because pets make a mess and they can damage property. I had a big golden retriever when I rented one of my first houses, and they made me pay a non-refundable $150 deposit plus $50 a month just for my dog. But he was worth it because he was my best buddy. All right, Lori, sneaking up. All right, which of these is considered a variable bill? Rent, phone, insurance, or utilities? Awesome, most of you got it. Utilities, right? So all the rest of those should be fixed. A fixed expense stays the same all the time. It shouldn't raise. Utilities are one of those things that is just really difficult to control. Something that you can do to kind of estimate your expenses for utilities is to call a utility company and tell them the address that you're thinking about renting, before you sign the lease, and ask them, what is the utility bill for this property? And then you can kind of estimate, how much your budget is going to be. Another good way to kind of estimate it is around 10 to 15% of how much your rent costs. So, but utilities, gas, water, sewage, electricity, I always tease my students and say, you're going to turn into your parents, because you're going to be telling everybody to shut the lights off and turn off the TV when you're not watching it and close the refrigerator, because now you're going to be paying the bill. And so we want to always over budget for utilities, because if we happen to use more, because we live in Colorado and our weather is insane, it just snowed like 10 minutes ago. Uh, we never know what's going to happen, and so we want to over budget for it so that we're not stuck, and that we always have money left over for variable expenses. All right, let's see what's next. Jose and Maria still in lead. Let's talk about insurance. Which of these cars, solely based on the car, is the most expensive to insure? All right, a lot of you got it. So it's this one here, and the reason why it's this car is because it's the most expensive and it goes the fastest. So insurance companies look at risk. They look at risk for the person who is driving it and the car that you are insuring. And so generally, if you buy a really fast car, you're probably going to drive it pretty fast. Otherwise, why did you buy it? So they look at risk and they calculate that. They also look at something else, which I'm going to talk about after the next question. Which one of these is the least expensive to insure? Tricky, tricky. Ooh, that's really split. Okay, it's the top one on the left, the red one. And even though it's red, it is the least expensive to insure because it is one of the safest vehicles. This is the Mazda CR something. I can't remember exactly what it was called. There's a bunch of letters. But safety rating makes a huge impact on how much your insurance costs. Why? It costs more to fix a person than it does to fix a vehicle. So the safety rating, if you are looking to save money in your car insurance, buy a vehicle that has a high safety rating, that doesn't cost a lot of money to replace or to fix if you get in just a little fender bender, and something that it doesn't go like super duper fast and would be high risk. All right. Something that's a major mistake is that many people go out and they buy a car and then they get the insurance bill and they're like, oh my gosh, this quote just blows my mind. Oh my gosh, I can't even afford that. And then they end up skipping on car insurance. So let's look at car insurance a little bit closer. True or false? The state minimum of $25,000 is enough car insurance coverage. Ooh, the answer is false. So let me ask you this. You're driving around, driving downtown, you hit somebody. Chances are that car costs more than $25,000. Can you think of cars that cost more than $25,000 to buy or to replace? Most of the cars that are on the road cost more than $25,000. So if you hit somebody and their car costs $40,000 to replace and you totaled their vehicle and it's your fault, who pays the difference? You do. So if your insurance only goes up to $25,000 and you have bought the state minimum coverage just for liability insurance, you will have to pay the rest, and it could potentially be very, very damaging to your budget and to your livelihood. So make sure that you have enough insurance. The states or the standard is to have $100,000 worth of collision coverage and $300,000 worth of bodily injury. And this is pretty standard on any insurance policy. So talk with your insurance provider and just make sure that you have enough to protect yourself. It doesn't cost a lot more per month, but boy, it could cost a lot if something were to happen. All right, Lisa coming up. So, whose car does liability insurance cover? Yours and theirs, yours, all of them. Yep, most of you got it. Their car. So if it's your fault and you hit somebody, your insurance will only pay to fix their car. Your car, you fix with duct tape. All right, so whose car does full coverage or collision cover? Yours and theirs, yours, none of them. Yours and theirs. And so this is important to know because if you have a loan on your car, that car does not technically belong to you, and your bank makes you have full coverage because your car needs to be protected. They don't want you to fix that car with duct tape. So yours and theirs. This is also just a good idea just in case. Collision and full coverage also covers if you hit something that is not another vehicle. Maybe you run into, I don't know, your garage door or, you know, a fence or whatever. But then there's other things to consider. So I'm going to ask my next question. What is the fee called that must be paid before insurance pays for anything? Deductible, insurance deposit, security deposit, or capital gain. Aha, got it. The deductible. So, you know, oftentimes we have to make the decision of, okay, do I claim it on my insurance or should I just fix it myself? And so that question lies in how much does the deductible cost? Usually it's around $500, and this goes for houses too. So if you have a you know, home insurance and you get hail damage or something, is it worth it to pay the $500 deductible and then have the insurance claim, which by the way makes your insurance go up? Or should you just fix it yourself? My husband was backing out of the garage and knocked the mirror off of his truck. And I was like, well, should I call the insurance company? I was like, no, just fix it because you're going to have to pay a $500 deductible. And that's just crazy. Anyway, so the deductible, something to consider before you make a claim. By the way, inside tip, in case you don't know this, if you are unhappy with your insurance rates, it's important to shop around every 2 years. Because if you don't, every single year, your rates get raised and raised and raised. If you call them and say, hey, I'm unhappy with my rates, they might lower them. Or you can shop around and go somewhere else and transfer and save hundreds of dollars. I don't want to sound like Geico, but you know, but shop around and look for those lower rates. The same thing goes with your cell phone, right? You don't like your cell phone plan and you're like, oh, they keep raising my rates. Call them and say, I don't think that I want to be a customer anymore. I'm thinking about shopping around. Is there any better that you can do? And they will drop your rates. Same thing with your cable and internet. Call them up and say, hey, I'm thinking about changing. What can you do for me? And if you do this at least every 2 years, then you're going to save a ton of money. All right. Ooh, it's getting closer. Oh, I gave you the answer. Let's see if you're paying attention. What is the standard deductible? 50, 500, 100, or 800? Yay! paying attention. I love it. I forgot I put that one in there. All right, here we go. All right, awesome. Oh, we're getting close to being done. Oh no. How much would you spend every year if you had one of these every day? 1,500, 3,000, 500, or 800? All right, three of you got it right. $1,500. You know, this is something that I like to think of as a treat, but others think about it as life, and spending a lot of money on going out to eat or, not packing a lunch, grabbing a cup of coffee can add up over time. And if you think about this, over the course of 10 years, that would be $15,000. Which you could have used, to buy a car, college tuition, lots of things. So when we think about budgeting, we want to think about like, where is our money going? And every couple of months, take a look at your bank statement and comb through and see if there's anything that you can find. And the goal is to take anything that you can find that you're like, is this really a necessity? But purposely take that money and then put it somewhere else. If you're in credit card debt, take that money and put it specifically toward that credit card. If you are saving up for something, take that money and specifically put it toward that. But go through, comb through it, and see what you can find. Every single little bit helps. All right, my last question, or maybe next to last. Oh, so close. How much does it cost to raise a child on average per year from birth to age 18? 20,000, 13,000, 6,000, or 3,000 per year? How much do you spend on children? Oh, two people got it right. $13,000. I think my next one, there we go. The cost of raising a child. I love this graphic. Kids, thank your parents. Your parents have spent $233,000 on you. Oh my goodness. And this is the average child. This is nothing like, anything lavish, over the course of birth to age 18. Wow. So I always tell students, this averages out to be about $1,000 a month. If you can't afford it, be responsible with your choices. Right? It's pretty expensive. Right? So, and a lot of work, a lot of money. So everybody, thank your parents for supporting you, and thank you so much, parents, for supporting your kids. All right, let's see who won. Lisa in third place, congratulations. Jose and Maria, second place. Dun, dun, dun. Lori, excellent work. Snuck up at the end. Snuck ahead of Jose and Maria. Excellent job. I love it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and just talk to you guys for a minute. So we talked about budgeting. We talked about some percentages. I do want to direct you to the book so that I can show you some of these pieces in there, and then we'll talk about credit and investing. So does anybody have any questions or comments or anything before we get into some more details? You guys are good. All right, that was a lot of fun. Thank you for playing Kahoot. Okay, I've made a couple of different versions. I keep updating my book, and so I'm not sure if the pages correspond or not, but turn to page 21, and we'll see if I grabbed the right version. I'm getting ready to do another update, And so if you have any feedback, if you want to email me, I would love it if you have any suggestions or anything that you would love to see in there as I make another update. All right, so page 21, it should be step 5, consider the money factor. Does that look right? Okay, awesome. Thank you for the thumbs up. All right, cool. So please take a moment to guess how much each one of these things costs. And I see a lot of adult faces in the room, so I'm not sure. Let's see if I see any students in here. You guys know how much bills cost, right? I encourage you to do this with your kids, you know, and go through. I'm not going to make you do it for page 21, but I do want to go through a couple of different parts to this. A lot of the stuff we did in the Kahoot is here in the pages on 22 and 23. And then we get to page 24. So something I want to encourage, you know, people to do just in general is to make sure to fill out your W-4 correctly, and so that you don't end up having to pay taxes. The higher the number that you put on your W-4 when you, you know, when you say how many dependents you have, of course, the less amount of taxes will be withheld from your paycheck, and then you may end up owing at the end. I don't know about you guys, but like I said, I'm not that great at saving money. And so I love to have that tax refund, and I always claim 0. And what that does for me is make sure that there's enough withheld, and that I will always get that tax return. If you claim 1, usually you'll break even, but again, I just like to have the tax return. So it's totally up to you, but that's kind of what goes on page 24. Page 25, I think is such an eye opener for students to look at what does it cost to live on your own. Go and shop for, you know, an apartment, shop for a house. Are you going to be able to do this with yourself, or do you have to have roommates? Make sure that they are responsible roommates. When my husband and I first got married and, you know, decided about like, you know, who's going to pay the bills or whatever, we decided like, you know, all right, you pay this, I'll pay that. We don't share bank accounts, and then we don't argue about money. We don't argue about money. That's the number one thing that couples argue about, and we've been able to avoid that. And so I like that a lot. We split everything down the middle, and then kind of assign, you know, who's going to pay for what. And I make a whole lot less money, of course, than my husband does as a teacher. But anyway, that way, you know, if he wants to go and buy something expensive, I don't care. If I want to go and travel, he doesn't care. So that's great. So just a little bit of personal. So page 25 is really looking at, you know, what is your paycheck going to be? Look at, you know, what is it that I really need to think about when I go out and get a place to live? And then page 29 is actually creating a budget. So work with your kids, you know, on how much does this stuff cost? Add it up. And again, you know, these are the things that are, you know, the most important. And we do have those percentages here as well. So like on rent, it says do not exceed 30% of net income, right? So stick to that and you will be much happier. Alrighty, page 30. Page 30 is all about building credit. And so I want to touch on that for just a second. You know, building credit is one of the hardest things that there is to do. And I like to think about it as like your life grade. You know, in school you have A's and B's and whatever. And so credit goes from 350 to 850. And I want to have an A. And I'll tell you, recently I refinanced my house and got a 2.5% interest rate. 2.5%. And that's because of a high credit score. So the higher your credit score, the better off you're going to be. How do you do it? The first thing that they look at is your payment history. Pay every bill on time, pay your credit card off every single month. And the second thing they look at is how much do you owe. So if you carry a credit card balance, it's going to be against you. If you don't carry a credit card balance and you borrow, you know, say you buy gas and groceries. I buy gas and groceries with my credit card every single month, and I pay off every penny that I spent because I budgeted for it. If I don't have that money, I don't spend it. And I use that in order to keep my credit going. You have to continue the credit cycle and borrow money and pay it back over and over and over and over again in order to raise your credit. And again, if you're looking for more money in order to pay those down, you know, go through and comb through your statements and find what you can find to put it toward that. Okay, page 31. Page 31 is all about career income. So students are going to use, you know, their career that they're thinking about pursuing as they've done career research. And last time I saw you guys, we did career research, and back, actually, I think it's forward in the book a couple of pages is the career research section. So you can find out how much that career is going to pay, and then basically find out, you know, hey, what is this lifestyle I want, and then work toward that. On page 33, we have shopping for a car. All right, so the Kelley Blue Book is on there. The NADA is also on there. Edmunds is a great, another great resource. So play around with calculators in order to find out, you know, how much would your mortgage be, you know, based upon whatever loan term you pick. How much is your loan term going to be for your car, whatever you might pick, and then research the value. All right, does anybody have any questions, comments, anything you want to add to any of those pages? I want to focus on retirement with you guys. Good. Okay. All right, I want to show you something cool. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Oh no, where did I put it? I'm going to close out Kahoot, and maybe that will let me share it. Give me a second. Okay. So I'm sharing with you Dave Ramsey's investment calculator. And so I want to talk to you about the power of compound interest, specifically related to a Roth IRA. So we're going to look at this power, and I'm going to start one of these and I wish I had done it earlier. And my father-in-law, who's a CPA, said, you should start a Roth IRA for your kids. And I was like, oh, I'm going to invest in a 529 plan instead. And I wish that I had listened to him, because say you know, for my kids, my daughter is 8. So I can put in, so 8 years old, and, you know, maybe she plans to retire at age 67. And I put in $1,000 for her. I'm actually, what I'm going to do is use her stimulus. All right, and say I put in nothing. Annual rate of return, Dave Ramsey suggests 12%. I think that's ludicrous. I don't want to over budget myself and depend on something I'm not going to get. So I'm going to put 10. It's still hopeful, but not crazy. If I put in that $1,000 when she's 8 years old, by the time she retires, she's gonna have $356,000 just through the power of compound interest. And so you can get an IRA, a Roth IRA specifically, through any financial advisor. You can do it through your bank, and you can invest this money. Now, here's the really cool thing, is that maybe she doesn't want to use this for retirement. She's like, Mom, whoa, this is crazy. I really want this to be used for education. And so by the time she turns, let's do this for 20. And I put in the same calculation. All right, I put in $1,000, it's going to be $3,000. But what if I put $100 in a month? If I start with that $100 when she's 8 and I put in $100 a month, she's going to have $30,000 that she can use for college at age 20. A Roth IRA, you can take out money and use it for qualified expenses. A qualified expense is education, a down payment on a house, or retirement. And so she could use this if she doesn't want to use it for college. She could use it for a down payment on her house. What if I was smart about this and I did it when she was 1? If I hadn't waffled around, she could have had $74,000 by the time she was 20. All right, so the power of time is huge. Now, what if we said, okay, maybe I'm not going to put any money in there, and I'm going to start, and we'll talk about this as retirement. We're going to start with maybe a 401k or opening up our own Roth IRA when we start in a career. So, you know, students, they say, okay, well, I'm probably going to start my career around, say, age 23 or 24, just to be on the safe side. Our students at Colorado Early Colleges are probably going to start around 20 or 22 because they're a couple of years ahead of the game because they're getting their associate's degree. All right. The goal is usually to put in 6% of your salary. So if you make $40,000 a year, 6% is $200 a month. And if I started this at age 24, by the time I'm age 67, I'm going to have $1.7 million in order to retire. This is an awesome thing to do because we don't want to have to rely on Social Security. Who knows, you know, what's going to happen. We could have that be the icing on the cake instead of the whole cake. Right. So investing is a super important thing to do. Again, you can do this through your bank. You can, do it through your 401k at work. And then sometimes companies even have a company match and they say, hey, you put in $200, we're going to put in $200 and we're going to give you $400 total. And you're going to have $3.4 million. Pretty awesome stuff. So this is on page 35, The Power of Compound Interest. And there's a little activity on here to mess around with this investment calculator on page 36. Also, how to get a 401k on page 37. And the difference between the IRAs on page 38. Okay. I also want to show you if you wait, say instead I was like, well, I'm going to wait until I'm 40 because I didn't know. We have $658,000 instead of 3.4 million. So that power of 15 years makes a big difference. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But I encourage you guys to mess around with that. It's super cool. And if you haven't, opened an IRA for yourself or for your kids, this is an incredible opportunity in order to build using that compound interest and just growing that nest egg that can be used for a variety of things. I've learned that if you put it in that 529 plan, that it's can only be used for education. Well, what if they want to use it for a down payment on a house? So, and there aren't any penalties for taking those things for qualified expense. Any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? All right. Okay, I'm just going to take a couple. Oh, and I'm sorry, there's a chat down here and I haven't been looking at it. Okay. Oh, good. All right. I haven't missed anything. Very nice. Okay, so I want to just go through, since I didn't have the book to you guys last time I saw you when we talked about career research. I just want to point out a couple things and see if you have any questions. This is on page 42. So on page 42, I love this website. It's called My Next Move, and it's in conjunction with ONET, which is sponsored by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And so the Bureau of Labor and Statistics is just one of my very favorite resources that is very accurate, updated, and has just a lot of great stuff. But my next move will give students a chance to kind of go through and put in likes and dislikes and have some careers kind of suggested based upon the level of education that is desired. So what, and then you can change that level of education and get more careers that are suggested. And then on page 48, we get into analysis. And so it's really important to look at what kinds of things, are you going to use as a filter to really navigate and find the right career. If not the right career, at least the right field or direction, right? So, what is going to be something that lights you up every day? What is going to be something that will provide for your family? What's going to be something that is going to be around in the next 10 years? So all of this stuff is, I believe are the most important pieces to really look at. And so it looks lengthy. There's some space to kind of write and take notes and then do a numerical analysis on a scale, of course, teenager analysis on a scale of meh to amazing. So that's pretty cool. And then last time I also talked to you guys about job shadows and the PPBEA. I do want to point out on page 68, there's a script. So on 68, there's a script in order to help you set up a job shadow. And so one of the most intimidating things is, okay, well, maybe I found somebody who does this job, or you just, randomly called them off of, finding them on Yelp or something. I used to say calling them out of the phone book, but that's not really a thing anymore. Right, so you found them on Yelp, and so there's a script to say, this is who I am, and here's why I'm interested. I've done several job shadows myself, simply looking into what is going to be right for me, and I found that it was extremely helpful. And so I don't want people to be intimidated by simply asking. One of the things that I firmly believe in life is that if you don't ask, you don't get. So please remember all those tips I gave you about asking, your cell phone provider or your insurance provider, hey, what can you do to lower my rates? But call and ask, or send an email to these people and ask them, hey, can I come in job shadow? Can I ask you some questions? Right? Even adults, if you're thinking about changing careers, find somebody who knows what to do. Find a mentor. Hey, what do you like about your job? How do I get started? And most people are really, they really want to help, and they're excited about what they do. And if they're not excited about what they do and they're like, oh, maybe they tell you to run for the hills, don't do it. Then at least right? So, anyway, and then there's just some ways to research schools on page 77. There's some scholarship resources. There's a really great, on page 78, 79, there's a great way to analyze a college campus. And so when you go and visit those campuses, you can look at, what are the really important questions I need to ask? So take that with you. For now, of course, there's not a whole lot going on in person, but there are a lot of virtual ones, and they certainly can be used later. Okay, the last thing I want to point out to you guys is one of my favorite sections of this book that I found that most students will take this off the shelf and use this so many times, is every time they go to get a job. So this is so helpful for everybody. On page 117, first of all, is a resume template. Something I just want to point out about getting a job is that there's so many things that are online now that they use computers in order to filter out resumes. And so one of the major tips that's in here and that I just want to touch on is use the keywords from the ad and from the job description on your resume and on your cover letter. And what that'll do is get your stuff noticed so that yours is pulled by the computer because they're looking for keywords. So find those keywords, use them in your resume and your cover letter. All right. And then the last one, I keep saying this, the last thing I want to give you, the last one I want to give you is on page 124. Students have messaged me time and time again and said, hey, Mrs. Smith, I got the job. Thank you. I used my book and I filled out the questions and I practiced. And so what these are just recommendations on how to formulate answers to questions for interviews. And so the most important pieces of this, and I can't stress this enough, is the question of why do you want to work here? Why do you want this job? And the answer should be something that you know about the company, or a reason why you're passionate about it, or why you fit in. You know, students, if they didn't know better, they would answer this with, you were hiring? You know, it's around the corner from my house. You know, and so employers are really value, you know, somebody who is going to be in it with their heart. So find something that you really want to apply for, and find something that really fits you and your style and your strengths. All right. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. And also, there's some templates in there for a thank you note. You know, anytime you go on a job interview, you definitely want to send a thank you through email, and there's a template there for that. There's also a template for quitting a job. You know, so when it's time to part ways, there's, you know, a great way to say it. There's a bad way to say it. And so we just want to say it and be professional. So on page 131, there's also a template for that. And ways to gain experience. So that's all I really have for you guys. I feel like we did a lot, and I would love to answer questions or anything that you want to know.
All right, parents. Well, let's give Miss Christie a round of applause. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for all the information. This is fun. As I was telling my mom, it's like watching a game show. You guys doing Kahoots, and so that was very cool. And I hope you guys all enjoyed it and took away a lot of great information for not only yourselves, but also your students. So thank you guys for being here tonight. Miss Christie, thank you again. And parents, we will see you at the next one. Have a great night.
Thank you.